My name is Arne Burns, and I am a community worker teaching SNAP education with the University of Illinois Extension. And today we are going to talk about seasonal produce. Now you may be asking yourself, what is seasonal produce? Retake.
12 seconds later.
Now, you may be asking yourself, what is seasonal produce? I'll admit I didn't know what seasonal produce was either, but seasonal produce is produce that is purchased and consumed around the time that it's harvested. So basically around the time that we kind of pluck it from its stalk if it's corn. So there are many benefits to eating seasonally, and we're going to talk about those benefits here throughout the video. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first benefit for eating seasonally is that the food tends to taste way better. Right now we're kind of entering those summer months, so one of my favorite summer fruits is watermelon. Love watermelon. Watermelon in the summer tastes so much sweeter and is much more juicier than if I was to try and eat it in the winter. And this is kind of due in part to being able to purchase that produce, such as watermelon, from local farms, and the food doesn't necessarily have to travel as far. This also allows for the produce to kind of reach their peak ripeness without risking the food from spoiling. So you can't necessarily pick the food when it's ripe and then try and ship it across country when it's out of season, because then the food would spoil and then it would essentially be a waste of the crop. So that's one of the biggest benefits to eating seasonally. You get that better tasting food and it's coming from a more local area. So let's go ahead and explore what another benefit could be. So another benefit of eating seasonally is better nutrition. When produce is picked before it's ripe, those nutrients do not fully have time to kind of develop in the flesh of those fruits and those vegetables. And we know that plants need the sun to grow. So picking them before they're ripe kind of cuts off the nutrient availability. You can also get better nutrition because eating those seasonal produce guarantees that you're eating a variety of produce. So sometimes we often talk about eating a rainbow of colors, because we know that different colored fruits and vegetables is associated with different types of vitamins and minerals. So when we eat seasonally, that can kind of assist us into eating a more well-balanced diet by eating the colors of the rainbow. So let's go ahead and explore what a potential another benefit could be. So another benefit of eating seasonal produce is that it ends up being a lot cheaper. So it really comes down to supply and demand. So produce in season is more abundant, so we have more of it in the stores. So it ends up costing less per pound in those stores. So when we buy produce that's not in season, those other factors such as travel, time, and then the money to grow that produce in greenhouses is factored into that final price that we see in those stores. So when we're buying produce in season, none of those factors are factored in. So it ends up being a lot better deal, a lot more bang for your buck, if you will. So let's go ahead and talk about the last benefit I want to touch on for eating seasonally. So the last benefit to eating seasonal produce is that it is environmental friendly, which is always a good thing. So when we ship in produce from across the country, that requires, gas and other resources that we kind of don't think about. Those resources that's required just to bring it to our local stores. As discussed previously, travel is one of those factors when we're talking about the cost of that produce, but it even factors in here as well. When we buy seasonal produce, we're essentially reducing our carbon footprint because now that seasonal produce is being grown in our local farms and around our local communities. So the distance to bring it to our stores is not as far. And this is just something so simple that we can do that can end up helping the environment in the long run. So let's go ahead and move on to closing statements. So I want to thank you guys so much for sticking it out to the end of this video. I hope it was an educational and informing. As we enter the summer months, we can start thinking about those different types of summer seasonal produce like, oh, okay, we got corn, cherries, peaches, strawberries, tomatoes, zucchini, and I mean so much more. So I would encourage you to try incorporating that into your meal planning. So make your meals around the seasonal produce and then see if your food doesn't end up tasting like 10 times better because you did that. I will also include a link in the description box, which will kind of give you a list of different produce and what season to eat them in. So, like I discussed about the summer produce. And I think that's it. Thank you guys so much, and I might see you guys next time. Bye.